Welcome to Prophecy Insights with me, Bro Steph. And today I wanted, as promised, to do an update on what's going on in Israel. And if you hear background noise, I still have some workers here doing some construction, so I apologize in advance. But I did want to break things down to where it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on. We hear in the news that Hamas attacked Israel unprovoked at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles when they were in the synagogues praying. And that is, in fact, what happened. And day 5 of the terrorist attack on Israel, we're now on day 5. And what has happened is this war has gone from Hamas attacking Israel, now in Gaza, now the northern border has opened up. What I mean by that is factions of Iran, Hezbollah, Lebanon, and other Hamas regiments that are in the north of Israel, creating havoc there. Hezbollah's been shooting bombs into northern Israel. They want to get a hold of the Golan Heights. Hezbollah has over 150,000 missiles that they can launch against Israel. Of course, they won't do them all at once. It will be, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there, but it's just a constant barrage of missiles. And what they're trying to do, the Golan Heights is a mountain range. The soil's real fertile in the Golan Heights, and a lot of farming communities live there, Jewish farming communities. The point is, from a defensive standpoint, if you have possession of the Golan Heights, you can see from the Golan Heights all the way down into the heart of Israel. So if Hezbollah, Hamas, the Palestinian jihad groups, terrorist groups, and Iran can take over the Golan Heights, they have a launching pad to launch missiles down into the heartland of Israel. And it's very hard to attack the Golan Heights and push the enemy out once they occupy it. Well, Israel isn't going to let that happen. The Golan Heights is prime defensive protection that Israel has against invaders. They're not going to give it up. So they are now in a battle to push Iranian proxies, terrorist proxies, out of that area. So Israel, to sum it up, is now battling with Hamas in Gaza, right off the Mediterranean, right on the Mediterranean Ocean seashore. Then going north, you have Lebanon. They're now in a battle with Hezbollah, which is located in Lebanon, on the northwest part of Israel. And then directly north, through the northern border of Israel, there are terrorist proxies that are trying to move into Israel. So that's what's going on now. It's Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, I should mention, and Iran that Israel is now fighting against. Now, from Damascus, the Damascus area that has already been bombed to smithereens from the civil war that was in Syria, they are launching missiles from Syria into Israel. This is a concern to people who study prophecy because Isaiah 17 talks about the destruction of Damascus to the point that it will be uninhabitable. No one will be able to live there. Well, if Syria keeps pressing and Iran keeps feeding that machine to attack Israel, Israel will start attacking, and they may have already started attacking Syria, Damascus, a city that has never been overtaken or destroyed before. So, if that happened, it's not hard to imagine Russia getting involved, Turkey getting involved, North African countries getting involved, and now you have the scenario of the Ezekiel 38 campaign. The war in Ezekiel 38 is kind of interesting because Ezekiel lays out in perfect detail who the nations are going to be, how the attack occurs and happens. Basically, God says he puts into their minds the desire to create an evil plan to attack Israel and think that they're going to defeat Israel. So they come in through the mountains of Israel. The Lord says that he becomes so angry, his fury rises up into his face. And he rains hailstones, fire, and brimstone down on the armies that are in the mountains of Israel, totally destroying them. Now, does that sound familiar? Just go back in the Bible and read about Sodom and Gomorrah. Hailstones, fire, brimstone. Things got so hot and destructive, things were turned into salt. That's how bad the wrath of God was in Sodom and Gomorrah. And that is what will happen in the Ezekiel 38 war. God's wrath will be poured out on the enemies of Israel that attack Israel from the north in the Ezekiel 38 war. And so we don't know for sure if this war with Israel and Hamas, Gaza, is going to be the match that lights this fire of Ezekiel 38. We don't know that yet. Time will tell. But we are getting closer as the Bible starts to pour out in our generation, become clear and clear. It's not hard to imagine that we're moving closer and closer to the war of Ezekiel 38, which ultimately will lead to the 7-year period where Israel is attacked relentlessly by her enemies for a 7-year period of time, called the 70th week of Daniel. You can read about this in Daniel, chapters 7 through 12. It's plainly laid out by the prophet Daniel. And with what's going on in the world today, it's not hard to now see the Bible, the Old Testament prophets, what they have said. It's not hard to see it in our generation. It's kind of in plain sight now. Now, we don't know particulars, timing, things like that, but we can see the groundwork being laid. Think of it like when you go to lay a concrete slab. You have to dig the dirt up, you have to level it out, smooth it all out, frame it, pour in the concrete, and then you trawl it and make it nice and smooth. It has to be prepared. The foundation for the Ezekiel 38 war, for the 70th week of Daniel, the final 7 years of human history, the foundations are being laid in this generation. It's happening now. And the next thing that happens once the foundation is built, the house starts getting built, or whatever you might be building on that slab. That's what's happening now. God is beginning to build out the structure of what the end times and the final 7 years of human history are going to look like. It's going to be a time of great deception, of wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in different places, weather disturbances happening all around us, unusual signs and events that take place. We're seeing those things right now. You have to just show how lawless and depraved humans can be. You have Americans, college students that go to Harvard and Yale, that are praising Hamas for attacking Israel and for the beheading of babies, infants. And those beheadings have been videotaped and then shared with the families of those young babies. How depraved can a human being become? Well, that tells you. And in Matthew 24, the New Testament, Yeshua, Jesus, laid out in detail what the end times were going to look like, starting with the beginning of sorrows that I believe we're in now, leading right to the final 7 years of human history. And then the next thing that happens after the final 7 years, Daniel's 70th week, the next thing that happens is the return of Messiah. We're getting closer and closer and closer to these events. And we don't know, like I said, how it's all going to come together. But there's one thing I can promise you. It will come together. The Lord will carry out his plan. He's in charge of everything that's going on. That's the only way it's possible for me, as an example, to not lose my mind over these things. Is I know, as many of you know, that God is in complete control of everything going on around us. Nothing is happening that is shocking him or catching him by surprise. He saw it from the very beginning of time to the very end of everything in between. Nothing catches him off guard. And that provides for us a level of faith and hope and encouragement that we wouldn't have otherwise. That's why believing in Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, is vitally important now in these days, because otherwise you can't make sense of it. But when you read the Old Testament and the New Testament together, and you take a good look at what the entire Bible has to say, all of this starts making a lot of sense. Jesus said in Matthew 24, these days would be days of deception, lying, lawlessness, people not following nature, the natural ways of things, people breaking the natural order and doing what's right in their own eyes, not what's right in God's eyes. And we're now seeing the repercussions of that in a big way. I think God's giving us a huge warning, wake-up call. What's happening in Israel now is just an example of what's going to happen worldwide if we don't call on the Lord and ask for his help and be willing to humble ourselves under his hand, like Colossians says. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and in due time he'll lift you up. Israel is in grave danger, but they'll never be destroyed. God promises that in the book of Ezekiel, the book of Joel, the book of Jeremiah, the book of Isaiah, Obadiah. I can go on and on and on. Israel will never be destroyed. And so our hearts are broken for the Israelis that have been, and the Jewish hostages that have been kidnapped and taken into Hamas, into Gaza territory. It's heartbreaking that this has been done, that over 7,000 missiles have been fired upon Israel. The death toll of civilians alone is well over 1,000 and is probably going to end up being much, much more before this is over. And soldiers that have been kidnapped, IDF soldiers that have been kidnapped and have been killed. It's going to be a very difficult battle that's going to go on for a while. So my purpose in doing this update is to be a warning to all of us, to be emotionally, spiritually, and mentally prepared for what's coming. And then if we wanted to get into a discussion, the state of America today, we're not in a good place. And then to have this going on as well in Israel, it's a very, very precarious situation America finds herself in. God is the only answer for America. God's the only answer for Israel. So I just wanted to kind of brief you on what is happening. Again, Israel is preparing now and is fighting a war in the northern part of Israel, not just the south. And soon it will probably be north, south, east, and west. We call it the ring of fire that is around Israel, with enemies that want her annihilated. Now is the time to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and that God will deliver his people, the Jews, in Israel from this scourge. Thank you for listening. When I get new and updated information, go to Bro Steph at Facebook, facebook.com/BroSteph. And I'll post updates there, and I'll try to keep them as new as possible as far as updates. So I'll see you soon. Pray for Israel. Pray for your loved ones and your families. Pray for America. Pray that people will ask the Lord Jesus to come into their lives. That's the answer to our problems today. Bye for now. Keep looking up. Jesus is returning. See you soon. Bye-bye.